I couldn't fathom more loss. It's something quite beautiful about the human spirit, right? That we continue to adapt and go beyond those walls that even are so painful. And women are especially good at this. Women are especially good at this. The kind of the simple answer to how relationships impact fertility for me is that by the time we get to our partners in life, or our other relationships beyond our partners, it's really usually the cracks or the things that were not settled or are painful from our childhoods with our parents and our families begin to show. But even deeper than that, I think, because I do believe in the individual soul path and relationship to a great intelligence, whatever you might call that, God or the universe or a divine intelligence. I think of that almost very analytically. I think about the first, like almost within your soul's life, there's going to be opportunities that you have to keep on evolving and keep on learning and keep on growing. And so most of the time, those opportunities come in the form of another human being, right, who we're in a relationship with. Very rarely, and this is actually what's interesting about fertility, is that it's one of the reasons I love working on it, is that there's so few places where you're trying to get to a place, i.e. having a child, being pregnant, that you've never experienced in the past, right? So when I studied in school, we learned how to be like general practitioners in holistic medicine, treating headaches or IBS or even PMS. But that's all something that was already occurring in the body, right? Like somebody had a headache, so let's fix it. Fertility is this thing that's so much more, has this huge breadth, right? You have to consider the body and the spirit and the mind, and so many factors and layers come in. And for me, that's what I think is just, again, like it opens up this beautiful window for healing and introspection. And wisdom doesn't come easily in life for any of us. No one can come out and here's a silver tray of wisdom, right? Think about the wisest people and the lives they've lived. And so
yes, I love it. And that sense of, spirit is celebrating the opportunity to learn, but we don't always celebrate that. But
right.
we can. It is truly an opportunity, which it isn't easy to say that, but it is. Yeah, I love that. The wisest people we know. We want to be the wisest people we know. So let's accumulate wisdom.
Just have to keep on alchemizing it. You just have to keep on alchemizing it over and over again. Yeah.
I love that. Gorgeous. Thank you so much. I know I'm going to go to the questions now, because I know so many people have
Sure.
asked. I'm going to start at the top.
I'm looking forward. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yes. So people are saying, yes, it's infuriating when people tell you to relax.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's always flowing no matter what. Someone said about there being cycles of 7 and that being a magic number.
Mm-hmm.
7 is the number of perfection.
7 is the number within, as I learned it in studying kind of what's called stems and branches in Chinese medicine, which is a very kind of esoteric form comes right from the essence, the base of Taoism in Chinese medicine and the I Ching and everything. 7 is the number that the female cycle grows in. And you can actually see this in science too. You get a new liver every 7 years. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. You start to see these like cycles within the body. And for men, it's 8. So there's a 7, definitely within the feminine physiology. 7 is an important number.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow. I'm going to reflect on that. That's deep in terms of, wow. Yeah. I'm 49. So kind of coming into that would explain why it's been a big year. Okay, so then we've got, so someone saying about, we talked about that with having aunties and uncles who aren't necessarily your bloodline. And And yes, I love the idea of bringing in someone who may not have been blood related, yet maternal great grandmother was adopted. So yes, of course, people come into your lineage who are not bloodline, but they are your lineage. So there's a question here saying, could you talk a little about co-creating the journey with your partner towards conceiving, the other 50% of the equation, especially if your partner is not as open to spirit or spirituality?
Absolutely, which usually is the case.
Right. Right.
But then I always like to remind people that if you are somebody who is particularly interested in spirituality, or is very drawn, or has had those moments of perspective since you were a child, then the partners who's attracted to you, they're also interested in that. So
Right.
even if they say they're not, it's more like their own trauma has led them to believe that if they don't hold on tightly to an analytic perspective, that something bad might happen. Usually that's where it comes from. But there's a desire to look outside of that, or else they wouldn't be attracted to you. They wouldn't be with you. So I like in my book, I have an exercise called Reasons Why, which I suggest people doing that they do it in partnerships, because I think it's a lot of exercises that you can do in this space can be very helpful about just eking out the unconscious fears, the things that people are afraid to say because about fertility. For men, it sometimes can be difficult because you hear them say things like, you'll stop paying attention to me, we'll stop having sex, what if you lose your body, what if I don't think you're attractive anymore? Like, this can become some of their baseline fears. Or when my dad stopped being interested in my mother, you know, or what if I'm a terrible father? What if I'm like my father? So I think for men who are very much, you know, globally, it's difficult for men to express themselves. My experience with my clients in the UK is that it's quite stiff when it comes to men having a chance to express anything, especially about their fertility or virility. So you know, I think that that's also a space that then, again, like sometimes, you know, it's not the easiest path being born a woman. It's, you know, it's wonderful and beautiful and full of opportunity. And I certainly am glad that I am one, and I work with women, and you know, I'm totally of the goddess energy. I'm very feminine, but I sometimes, you know, I think it's we have to really receptively offer up a space sometimes for them to enter into. And it can be very hard, especially if we're angry or if we're carrying extra work or extra load. But the thing to keep in mind there always is, through unconditional love, it's very important to offer the space for the people who we love in life, for them to also have a chance to do the healing that we're doing.
As you say, it's really not easy, and it's kind of a dance.
It builds intimacy, though. It builds intimacy in a way that I find to be incredibly important in the fertility process.
Yeah. And she just said, beautiful. Thank you. Indeed, it was beautiful. We've got a couple more questions here. So, could one spirit baby be a pet who left this earth? Is the question.
Oh, that's interesting. And could you also tell me who these questions are from, the names? Is that okay?
Is it okay if I say people's names? I'm just aware, because it's on the replay and people don't necessarily see the chat, and we haven't been doing that. Is it okay? Is it okay for this question? Is it okay to have the name? I'm just asking them.
I usually like to be really direct in who I'm speaking to on these things.
Hang on. Yes, sure. She said sure. So this is Anne Mary.
Okay, I am Mary. Hi. So it's very fascinating to me. This question is really interesting. You know, my experience working with spirit babies and spirit energies is that I oftentimes, my belief and my experience is that people, there's not a lot of repetitions of souls. For instance, I really feel that when there is, per se, say a miscarriage or a loss of a child, I don't oftentimes feel like that soul returns. I think that there are a plethora of connections and souls out there. I think the way we think about time in a linear way and attachment to souls can sometimes limit us. There certainly can be commonalities or vibrations that are the same. But I do believe in my work that very rarely are we revisited to incarnate a soul or spirit that is known to us before in an intimate way. This is a very rare situation.
Mm. So certainly you may have that connection with your pet that's passed. Certainly, I think animals do stay with us. They are precious souls who stay with us just as other precious souls to us, maybe, but maybe not your experiences, maybe not to coming as a baby, but have that.
And Emma, absolutely. Let me just expand on that a little bit for you, because I think, because I'm always looking at expansion when it comes to this field of how do because I am in this business of helping people have children. That is what I do, right?
Yeah.
So for me, any limitations or indexes or names that we put on the experience that limits the potential for a soul to come in becomes limiting, right? So and who would know until they were actually here? But when we set up things ahead of time, even with our spirit babies, and I see this, people become very anxious about, like, because I do work with spirit babies. They say, well, I don't feel the connection. My other friends do. I didn't have a dream. I didn't feel this. What does that mean? And for me, it's like, it's fine. Like, you don't have to have, some souls are like that. Some souls are like, they're like my daughter with this thunderbolt, and some souls are not. And I think that the more we just stay open, receptive, and unconditional love, I find that to be the more respectful place, helping to shepherd in spirit, than trying too hard to find the declaratives down here on earth ahead of time. Again, that's my own practice and experience. People are different, but that tends to be the way that I work, because I like the expansive path, and I like the most welcoming one.
Gorgeous, as you said. Thank you, Julian. Yeah, that really, you said, a very strong soul connection. So that sense of connection, and what you can know is that you have that connection with the spirit. You are connecting with spiritual realm. You do have that soul connection with your dear soul who passed, and that puts you in that vibration. So that's a gorgeous thing.
Yeah.
So we have another question. So this is from Christine, who says she's happy for her name to be shared. So, any practical advice for women whose trauma was or is rooted in their birth? I'm someone who grew up thinking I could have children later in life because my mum had me when she was 40, only to find out at the age of 30 that I was adopted. And so that narrative, the story, became traumatic as I learned the truth. My goodness, okay, that's a big story.
That's a big story. Right. There's a lot there, Christine. I think it's a hard position to have when things about your own birth have been hidden from you.
Yeah.
I speak about this in the book, about the family secrets. This falls into transgenerational trauma for sure. The thing that I'm feeling, what I can offer you in this moment, and I think that is, you'll have to really navigate what that means for you. And I'm sure it's already led you to being here today, and to having to face a lot of kind of curveballs or unknowns in life. Adopted children are very interesting. I love working with people who have adoption in their history, and I love working with people who are adopting. There definitely are. I also think that's a lot about the kind of cosmic air traffic control. Sometimes it can be very painful and doesn't make sense, but there was a reason that you were placed where you were. The trick is in looking to more of the universe, the cosmos, the earth mother, the spirit, to find what is true about your own fertility outside of the narrative that you were told. My intuition, my instinct is that something about that resonated for you because there was something true, but also I would just be cautious, and I would really dig deep into looking into the narratives, like really start to list out and get into the limiting beliefs that you've picked up from your adopted family versus just your own intuition, your own instincts. Just get really detailed and listing those out. And I think that's going to give you some more clarity and where the fears might